We are learning more about the man suspected of killing 6 people and injuring 2 more in a shooting rampage in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Police arrested 45-year-old Jason Dalton early this morning. He was working as an Uber driver. The ride-sharing service says he did pass a background check. There are reports he was picking up fares in between the shootings. Police say the violence started Saturday night around 6 p.m. when the suspect allegedly shot a woman 4 times outside her apartment complex. 4 hours later, 2 men were killed at a Kia car dealership. A few minutes later, 4 women were shot and killed, and a 14-year-old girl was wounded in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel restaurant. The 6-hour nightmare ended in the early morning hours when police took Dalton into custody after a massive manhunt. Authorities say the victims had no connection to either the shooter or each other. Jeff Hadley is the chief of public safety in Kalamazoo, and he's with us on the phone. Thanks for being with us, Chief Hadley.
Sure, no problem.
So do we know at this point of any kind of motive at all?
Man, we have not landed on any particular motive at this point. That's probably the most baffling and frustrating part of this investigation is we, as of this point, have no real understanding of why he would commit these type of crimes, and it's just truly baffling.
Chief, was the suspect known to law enforcement before this incident?
No, ma'am, he was not known to us. He has no criminal history that we know of, no incidents in our system, no involvements. So he was, for all intent and purposes as we knew it, an average everyday Joe.
What about the FBI? How is the FBI assisting in this investigation? What's their role?
Well, the FBI is, from the initial stages, provided a support role for us, offered any resources we may need as we continue throughout the investigation. I've talked to the special agent in charge out of Detroit early this morning, so they've been very helpful, taking a secondary role in this. This is a local investigation. We don't believe or have any reason to believe there's any terror ties or anything like that at this point, so they've been very helpful and very supportive, as they always have been for us.
Chief, I know it's early in the investigation, but there are reports on social media that the suspect was working just hours before the rampage. Do you know if he was picking up fares in between the shootings? Have investigators been able to determine that?
Well, not at this point. I have not talked to our investigators in the last several hours. That is something that has been obviously swirling around social media circles and been getting numerous calls from media outlets relative to that. That'll be part of the ongoing investigation for us to determine that. In the early stages of the investigation, when we did our initial briefing at 4 a.m. in the morning, it was brought up that he may be an Uber driver. There wasn't anything that we pursued at that point because it wasn't germane or relevant at that point in the investigation. We had other things that were taking higher priority, as you may know. So that's something that we will flush out as we move forward in the investigation.
And on that point, is Uber cooperating with the investigation?
I would assume so. I have not, again, talked to my detectives. I would assume they are. I haven't heard otherwise. So I would anticipate that they would.
Chief, one last question before we let you go. What about surveillance videos? Are police having access to any kind of surveillance videos in the area? Are you able to say that right now?
Yes, ma'am. We were able to pull surveillance video from the auto dealership and the Cracker Barrel, where 2 of the incidents happened at. The management personnel at those 2 venues were extremely responsive and helpful to us in our initial stage of the investigation. And we will continue to look for any additional footage from any of the other area businesses that were in that vicinity.
Apologies, Chief. One more question for you. Just in terms of how the suspect was captured, can you talk about that? How is it that officers were able to take him into custody and not have anyone else be hurt? Can you describe the circumstances of his capture?
Well, it was yes, ma'am. There was some really good police work by the officers on the streets. Kalamazoo County Sheriff's deputy recognized or saw a vehicle matching the description of the vehicle that was put out earlier, called for backup. Our officers showed up, backed him up, took him into custody without any confrontation or further incident. It was really some very good, swift police work. We were very thankful as a community and as a department that he was captured so quickly, because I had every reason to believe that he would have continued harming people if he was not captured in such a quick fashion.
And what kind of weapons were found on him or in his vehicle? Can you talk about that at all?
There was a weapon that was seized in his vehicle, a semi-automatic pistol, and that was the only vehicle at that time that we seized. We did execute a search warrant on his residence later on, and it is my understanding that there were also other weapons that were seized at that time. What they were, make and model, and how many, I don't have at this time.
All right, Chief Jeff Hadley in Kalamazoo, thank you so much, sir, for your time. We appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.